Now, Majority Leader Adan Duale says matters before court, such as the media shutdown, should not be discussed by Parliament, citing the sub judice rule. Duale says if a matter before court is discussed by a committee, its report cannot be tabled before the floor of the House. His comments came moments after ICT Cabinet Secretary Joe Mucheru failed to appear before the ICT committee to explain why 4 stations were turned off during and after the swearing-in of NASA leader Raila Odinga as the people's president. Our senior parliamentary reporter, once again, Patrick Amimo, is following up this for us. Patrick, what then does this mean for that particular committee?
Thank you, Akisa. In fact, when the CS, it was not the first time that he was trying to snub the meeting called by the Senate ICT committee, because last week he was to appear before it. He said there was to be a cabinet meeting which was not there because he was having another function somewhere, and senators did express concern. They said that he was taking the matters very lightly. That's why they wanted him to appear before the committee yesterday. But again, he did not show up because this week he said he'd be traveling out of the country for 1 week. So according to the Senate committee, they've given him at least until when he returns back. That's when they'll be discussing, looking into that particular matter. But the concern raised by the Leader of Majority of the National Assembly, Adan Duale, has roused at least a response from one of the members of that ICT committee in the Senate, Senator Enoch Wambua. Just to your take on the Majority Leader's statement that you cannot discuss this matter despite the fact that we had 4 private stations shut down during that particular after the swearing in of Raila Odinga as people's president. Do you think you cannot carry out your mandate?
Thank you, Amimo. I want to make it very clear that the ICT committee of the Senate is not a subject of Honorable Duale. We don't draw a mandate from him or from his utterances, so the committee will continue with its sittings. But having said that, Amimo, I want to reiterate that the reason why we asked the Cabinet Secretary in charge of information to appear before the committee was to answer 2 very simple questions. Who and why? Who shut the TV stations and why were they shut? Remember last week, the minister said that he was attending a cabinet meeting. We later learned that there was no such meeting. He did not attend. Yesterday, he was supposed to appear. He did not appear. And what we are saying as the ICT committee is that we see contempt on the part of the CS. Because even if he did not have time to appear before the committee, he would have done the most honorable thing. Either send his principal secretary or the Director General of the Communications Authority of Kenya to come and explain to the country who shut the 4 privately owned TV stations and why they were shut. Lastly, Amimo, it will be remembered, and this we must be very clear about. Article 34 of the Constitution is very explicit on the freedom of the media. Article 35 is very explicit on the right of every Kenyan citizen to access information. In 2013, this Parliament passed a bill establishing the Media Society of Kenya and the Complaints Commission. That society published the Code of Conduct and Ethics for the Practice of Journalism in Kenya, which sets the rights and responsibilities of every journalist and every media house. And there are penalties for breach. So I don't see why the minister would have issues coming to explain to this country why they shut the TV stations. And lastly, I want to make it very clear that if Duale wants to appear before the ICT committee on the matter of the closure of TV stations, he is at liberty to write to the committee and say that he thinks he has information that he wants to share with the committee. And the committee will decide whether that information will be necessary to advance this investigation that we want to undertake. Yes, Amimo.
Looking at it, last week when the senators were meeting and the minister skipped the session, I see most of you were very much unhappy with this move, and in fact some of you wanted him summoned. And we've seen this week he decided to go out of the country for 1 week without even giving you an explanation. Do you think he's still acting contemptuous to the ICT committee, and how then should be the relationship between the Senate and the ministry?
When you look at the answer of the meeting yesterday, Amimo, I went on record and I said I would highly recommend to this committee that we issue official summons to the minister, so that he is compelled by law to appear before us. Because my greatest concern, Amimo, and this should be the concern of every Kenyan, at this rate, then ministers will decide when to appear and when not to appear. They will decide when to share information which is of public interest and when not to share that information. And yet we are a committee mandated by law and by the Constitution to take care of the interests of Kenyans in as far as the sharing of information is concerned. So I still want to insist that if the minister does not appear before this committee after he comes back from his trip, then immediately the ICT committee must issue official summons for the minister to appear.
And looking at it, there's this controversial position of the Chief Administrative Secretary, those who are meant to assist CSS whenever they are not, maybe they feel they are overburdened by issues to attend on their behalf. Do you think, as he indicated, that maybe probably the Chief Administrative Secretary in the ministry can come on and maybe answer some of these weighty queries on the shutdown?
There is no weighty matter on the shutdown, Amimo. I can tell you for sure. It is just an explanation as to who made the decision to shut down these TV stations, why were those TV stations shut. And you know, when the minister wrote to the clerk, the explanation he gave is that he wanted more time to prepare, he wanted questions sent to him so he can prepare. And I said, we don't need a PowerPoint presentation from the minister on this matter. It's a straightforward matter. The minister will just appear, and in 5-10 minutes, we will have dispensed with that matter. Yes.
Thank you so much. So that is Kitui Senator Enoch Wambua just trying to talk over this particular issue when media houses 4 private stations were shut down, and we've seen the ICT Cabinet Secretary Joe Mucheru being asked to appear before the committee. Last week he failed to appear. This week also he failed to appear, and understandably from the letter he wrote last week, he's out of the country for 1 week. For 1 week mission, and that's the only time maybe when he comes back, probably that's when he'll appear before the committee. Akisa?